Hello, I'm Dr. Lilly with Enhanced Chiropractic Relief, and I'm here to talk about understanding weight loss. I'm deciding to put this series together, Understanding Weight Loss, is because I want to essentially demystify the nuanced things with weight loss. You know, what to eat, anything nutrition-wise, talk about calories, calorie counting, macro counting, things of that nature, and ultimately I want to simplify this as best as possible, even though nutrition, fitness can get a little nuanced, can get a little complicated, and depending on who you're listening to, there can be different sources of information coming at you from, left and right. So with that said, let's jump into number one with understanding weight loss and everything in regards to it. And step number one essentially starts with the most fundamental part of weight loss, which is understanding calories in versus calories out. To put this as simply as possible, calories in versus calories out. Say, for example, you eat an egg. Egg is around 60 to 80 calories. Just for the sake of argument, let's go with 60 calories. Let's say an egg is 60 calories. Now, if you eat one egg for the whole day, the metabolic processes in your body, that means the processes that your body requires to live, to breathe, to move, to generate these arm movements that I'm doing, my head, my lips, etc., all require energy in the form of these, calories. If you eat one egg, that is 70 calories, for example, but your body is essentially burning or using up more than that, you will find yourself in a deficit. The deficit, or the caloric deficit, is more specific to what we're talking about, is the most important part when talking about weight loss. Eating less than what you're burning, having this equation, is the most fundamental part when understanding and going through your journey of weight loss. So, for example, 70 calories in your egg. If you're burning 2,000 calories a day, 2,000 minus 70, you're burning more calories than what you're consuming. Now, obviously, that is a very favored example. Not everyone is just going to eat one egg for the whole day, nor is that recommended that you try, nor is it nutritionally recommended. An egg can only provide so much sustenance to your body that your body just gets thrown out of whack in terms of your hormone regulation, in terms of, hangriness, your mood, all that stuff. So definitely not recommended. Instead, I want you to think of this weight loss in terms of that. The less food that you eat, or the more calories that you burn, will basically create an equation, and to achieve weight loss, you need to be in that deficit. You need to be burning more than what you're consuming. Now, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum is something called a calorie surplus, and that is essentially the inverse or the opposite of what we just described in the calorie deficit. Now, a surplus is, as the name implies, you're having a surplus of calories, more or in excess of what you're burning. In that case, you're going to be in a positive, meaning you're going to have more calories in your system than what your body can naturally burn. Now, if you're in that surplus for multiple days at a time, weeks at a time, months, years, that's when we start to kind of put on the pounds, put on the weight, typically in the form of fat. Reason being, there's many different processes that your body undertakes to store that excess calories, and it's usually in the form of fat because our body will then call upon that process in a later time. It's kind of our survival mechanism. Think about hunter-gatherer societies. I know most people, when we talk about nutrition, want to kind of reference the past in that sense, where if we're not guaranteed meals in the next couple of days, for example, the more calories we consume now, we can then store away as fat and then call upon those calories at a later time to essentially keep us going, keep us in the fight per se, as we're hunting for our next meal, let's say 2-3 days from now. Or if we don't get to eat in 2 or 3 days' time, we have enough calories in our body to sustain us until we get to our next meal. Now, those processes are argued that they have never changed. Essentially, again, if you eat in a surplus, we'll store those calories, but if you eat in a surplus too much, then you gain more weight. Simple as that. It's a simple energy balance. You eat more than what you burn, you gain weight. If you eat less than what you burn, over time, you'll lose weight, you'll lose body fat. All of these examples I've been giving you essentially have just been you breathing. That's your natural resting metabolic rate. That essentially is a number in which is calculated through your body weight and other forms of measure that you find this number, and this number is the amount of calories you on average would burn every day if you were just to lay on a couch and just live, just breathe, watch TV and not move hardly ever. Now that is typically the baseline for what our caloric needs are. So how do we figure out how many calories we're supposed to be intaking in order to achieve our weight gain or weight loss? It's actually fairly simple. Type RMR into your Google search bar. RMR stands for resting metabolic rate. Now your resting metabolic rate is quite important. Although it is an estimation, there's no real exact number on how to get there. Your RMR is supposed to estimate how many calories you're supposed to burn on a single day, not doing anything. Now imagine you're just sitting on your couch, being a couch potato, watching TV, and just breathing. That is your mode of living for that 24-hour period. Your RMR will estimate how many calories you will burn just by doing that. No exercise, no getting up to get things, no going to the bathroom, just sitting on the couch and just relaxing for 24 hours. That will be your RMR, your resting metabolic rate. Now, in order to get this, there's a few ways to do it. Easiest way, just Google it. You can Google RMR Calculator, click the first one. Typically, it'll ask for your weight, your height, and your age, and how much you currently weigh. With that, it'll spit out a number. For me, it's about 2,000 calories. When it comes to what we were talking previously about being in a surplus or in a deficit, that is based off this number. So if I want to gain weight, if I want to put on muscle or gain a little bit of weight for whatever endeavor that I'm trying to achieve, if that is your goal, you would be in a surplus. So anything over 2,000 calories per day. Now, realistically, we're not going to be at 2,000 calories every single day because, we're constantly moving, we're exercising, we're walking, we're running, lifting weights, things like that. So that number is just the baseline of 2,000, and whatever calories you're burning on top of that tends to inch up a little bit higher. Now, if you're not doing any rigorous activity, you're not running for 5 miles, you're not lifting weights for an hour and a half, walking or at a desk for most of the day, your calories aren't going to go up to 3,000, for example. Your calories might go to like 2,400 calories per day, and that is normal. Now, when you add an hour or two of exercise, whether it's in the morning or in the evening, obviously that number will jump up an extra 200 to 300 calories, so you might be around like 2,600 or so. Again, that would now be your baseline for that day. Now, if you want to be in a surplus, again, you would just be eating above that. And if you want to be in a deficit, you want to be below that. Talking about weight loss, we're talking about the deficit portion, so we want to be below that threshold. Now, one thing to also consider when you're exercising, let's say you're lifting weights, you do an hour of your workout that includes, 5-10 minutes of cardio on the Stairmaster or treadmill, and then you do your 30 or 40 minute HIIT workout or your weightlifting class or whatever it is that you're doing. People often wear your watches, Apple Watches, Garmin's. I myself have a Garmin. Those tend to kind of pick up your calorie burned for the session. Make no mistake, those aren't accurate. Those are oftentimes very overly inaccurate. A good recommendation, a good rule of thumb to remember is anytime you're doing any type of intense workout, usually with like a HIIT workout, CrossFit workout, or any type of like weightlifting session where you're requiring a lot of effort on your part, it's usually about like 300 calories. That's usually about what most people can achieve. Sometimes I've seen people burn, 500-600 calories in a single session. That tends to be overly estimated. Unfortunately, I wish that was the case. You can, work out once a day and burn more than what you're eating, burn your whole dinner in that case. That unfortunately is not the case. Another thing to consider when understanding weight loss is how many calories do I need to lose weight? The general rule for that is to be in a deficit by about 3,500 calories to lose 1 pound. Now, you might think that's like, wow, I gotta basically not eat the whole day and exercise like crazy. If I'm only burning 300 calories per workout, and I'm eating, how in the heck am I supposed to lose 1 pound, only 1 pound with 3,500 calories? Now that principle can be spread out throughout the week. The general rule of thumb for that is Monday through Sunday, that's 7 days, that's your typical week. You want to be in a deficit by about 500 calories each single day. So Monday, let's say you had a really good workout, you burned 2,600 calories. You want to be in a 500 calorie deficit to be about 2,100 calories of consummation. Meaning, my calories that I eat, that I consume, whatever drinks that I'm drinking, my Starbucks, my fruits, my chicken that I ate, has to be about 2,100 calories. Now, on Tuesday, let's say I took a rest day, I didn't work out, and let's say my calories that I burned were about 2,000, 2,100, depending on who you are. Now you want to be 500 calories under that. And then Wednesday, same thing. Let's say you had another workout, you had leg day, it was particularly tough, it was brutal. Now, let's say you burned 2,800 calories. Again, you want to be about 500 calories below that, so about 2,300 calories for the day of what you're eating and consuming. And you basically just repeat that throughout the week until Sunday. Now, if you do it correctly, and the math is relatively on point, you should lose, theoretically, 1 pound in that week. Now, that 1 pound might not seem significant, however, that is our slow and sustainable progress, which is what we need. That is the goal that we're looking for when we're talking about weight loss. Another thing I want to mention in regards to weight loss is, a lot of people like to get psyched out by the number on the scale. A lot of the fluctuations day in, day out, weekly even, those, in my opinion, don't matter. If it was my choice, and it is good to keep a record of your weight loss journey and kind of track where you're going, my recommendation, just once every 2 weeks or even once a month, track your weight. Because again, if you're losing 1 pound a week, that's 4 pounds in a month. The scale's not going to move very much in a week. It might move a little bit more consistently over a month's period of time, for example. So if you weigh in at month 1 and you're down 3 pounds, but then you weigh in at month 2 and you're down 6 pounds, then you're weighing at month 3 and you're down 9 to 10 pounds, then you kind of have that consistent decline in your weight. Another thing I want to mention is that typically the weight doesn't move on the scale first. If it does, more than likely it is water weight. And second, to kind of add on to that, what you're going to notice first is clothes fitting better. You might go down a pant size. That shirt that was once tight on you during, or maybe even at the end of your vacation, is now a little bit more loose fitting. It might fit just overall better. Those are the kind of results we're going to find first. And I often tell clients, and I tell people that I speak to in my practice, that when we're looking towards any type of weight loss goal, a lot of the stuff is going to be off the scale. There's no metric behind it, and that's very important because that's very psychological. And in this game of weight loss, most of the time it is psychological. People often lose out at the beginning because they don't see immediate progress. They don't see the immediate drop in the number on the scale, and that's completely wrong. That's not how you should be looking at this. You should definitely be trying to aim towards something bigger than that, but also these non-scale, off-the-scale type of wins, that's going to be the most important thing, and that's ultimately going to be the one driving force between you wanting to get that result each week or each month, however often that you're weighing yourself, fitting those tight pants a little bit better, fitting that nice shirt a little bit better, overall just feeling a little bit better about your body. Those are going to be the most important things when going through your weight loss journey. So just keep that in mind. The main 3 takeaways that I want to give at the end of this video for you guys to kind of take on is essentially that, number 1, the most important fact in regards to losing weight and hopefully keeping it off is to be in that caloric deficit. You need to be eating or consuming less calories than what you are burning. Looking for 1 pound a week is that is the general rule of healthy, sustainable weight loss, and that should be our aim regardless. If you keep that kind of metric in your head, 1 pound a week multiplied by a 12-week program, for example, that's up to about 12 to 15 pounds, give or take. We'll say like 8 to 15 pounds that you can lose in only 3 months. It's quite remarkable. Just 3 months of consistent eating, 3 months of consistent exercising as well. You can lose up to like 12 pounds in 3 months. Like, it's like when you kind of zoom out and look at that from that perspective, it can be remarkable if you just stick with it. And it can be tiresome. It can be extremely difficult and sometimes dissuading. But that is the most important part of it, is just sticking through it when times are tough. And with that said, we're now going to summarize all 3 points that we've talked about, starting with step number 1. Step number 1, make sure you understand being in a calorie deficit, so eating less than what you're taking in is the key metric when it comes to weight loss. Step number 2, understanding our resting metabolic rate. Now, going off point 1, which is being in that caloric deficit, requires you to kind of understand your resting metabolic rate. Just to reiterate, your resting metabolic rate is roughly an estimation of how many calories you're going to burn at a baseline, not including exercises, just sitting as a couch potato. Once you kind of have that number, you know a relative range of how much of a deficit you need to be, which leads us into step number 3. Step number 3 being knowing how many calories you need to be in a deficit to lose weight, essentially. To lose 1 pound, you need to be in a 3,500 calorie range deficit. The example I gave was that you're going to be in a 500 calorie deficit each and every day for an entire week. 7 days, 500 calories in a deficit each day equals 3,500 calories for the week, thus resulting in 1 pound loss for that week. Now carry that over to the next few weeks, and then that's when we'll start to see the pounds being shed. And lastly, just a bit of a bonus tip, always make sure to understand that most of these results will not happen on the scale, but will happen off the scale. These non-scale wins that you'll get, fitting in your clothes looser, overall just feeling better, maybe feeling a little bit more energized, clearer skin, whatever it is. These are small things that you need to pay attention to and understand and kind of figure out, and that's going to help you kind of get past the hard times of this cycle of losing weight. So with that being said, thanks for watching the video, and stay tuned for the second part of this video coming soon. Bye bye.